Flashbacks. Past players, past legends.
Yeah, I mean, Russell was coach of Port at that stage. You know, he was on one leg a bit, and so they didn't have as strong a team as perhaps they'd had in 1980 side. As Malcolm said, that 1980 side from Port
was a great side.
Yep.
It was a great side. They had a lot of good players, but they had a few young players in the '84 grand final team, and they had a few guys that were just on the edge, and so we were pretty keen. We were pretty keen on our chances.
What was Barmy like that week with the players?
Well, Barmy was always positive. I can never remember Barmy being negative. I mean, even when we were 1-6 during the year, he got this whiteboard out in the change rooms and put the next 10 or 12 games in front of us and said, how many of these do you think we can win? Can we beat these guys? Can we beat these guys? Can we beat these guys? And, the overwhelming thought from everybody was, yes, we can. We can beat all these teams, even though we were travelling rough. I mean, you wouldn't want to have put your hand up and said, no, I don't think we can win that one. So I think people were, on the bandwagon. And, you just gain momentum and win after win after win. And all of a sudden you're in the finals. And South weren't that strong. We met them in the last minor round game.
Yep.
And beat them and knew pretty much that we'd get over the line. But the next two games were going to be tough. And, but Barmy's always positive. One of the most positive men in football I've ever met. And I think that's why he's been so successful. He's just all positivity.
Yep.
And he's honest. And,
that's true.
I think, too, the other bit there, I reckon Neville, in terms of grand final week in '84, was important too. I can remember him saying, "You got," and some of us must have been around after training, whatever, and just Neville's. Hang on, look at the two teams on paper. We're better than them, and I reckon there was quiet confidence amongst you guys coming into the grand final.
But you can never count Port Adelaide.
Oh, of course
out.
not.
That's
But not at all. But I just think it wasn't a case of we weren't intimidated by them, and we just go. And I reckon you guys were going, I reckon, just good we'd come fifth at the end of the minor round. I reckon we were, we match up pretty well against them. We're pretty confident.
We were battle hardened, if you'd like. I think the grand final was only Port's second game in 4 weeks or something like that, because they finished top and won the first final. So, we got off to a good start. And, we only had the one injury. I think going into the final, Rowan Hellier hurt his arm in the preliminary, and Andrew Jarvis came in and did a really good job. So, I think Port had an injury overnight. Ben Harris was going to play, and then he pulled out. And Max Jones played, and Max hadn't played league footy for a while. So just the moons aligned, or whatever they say, and we get over the line. It wouldn't have been such a good game if we'd lost. I wouldn't be talking about it.
I wouldn't have watched a minute of it since if I hadn't. I may have watched it a couple of times.
Well,
Tommy.
You mean today?
Yeah, well, not since midday. Yeah, go on.
Now, I have to ask, Tommy, the big takeaway, obviously, from the '84 grand final was Barm and Evans going toe-to-toe in the square. We've asked a few of our previous guests about it, but what are your thoughts on how that all transpired?
Yeah, well, Ian Stazanowski, obviously the Norwood famous fullback, was chairman of selectors or on the selection committee. So I can remember him talking to us during the week, Craig, myself, and the other backline players, and saying that, he'd had a history of playing on Tim Evans and done very well.
Yeah,
and
good record on him.
Theory that if you could get under Tim's skin and annoy him and, just frustrate him, you've got a fair chance of doing okay. And I think before the game, Staz was in the rooms and again confirmed with Barmy that this was the tactic. So it was all pre-planned, and and whether I think Tim kicked 3-5 for the day or something. Could it, if he kicked 5-3, we might have lost. So,
I reckon
he gave away
a
that
couple
free
of frees
kick
and
early.
He kicked into the man on the mark once. He was flustered, especially to at least half time. So it certainly did work. And let's be honest too, Tim Evans was a fair player.
Absolutely.
More natural ability than Craig Baum, and that's taking nothing away from Craig whatsoever. But it worked. And Stazza and Nico's tactics there worked to a T.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I can't remember whether Tim Evans played on after 84, but that may well have been his last game. I can't recall.
I think he played a bit,
he was a terrific player, and again, good old Staz.
Yes, the
thanks for the idea.
Yeah, and
did you think that it was going to happen during the national anthem though?
Yeah. We thought that it'd start before the first, so nothing. Nothing surprised us. No.
I think too the other bit there that just because we've seen the calm and relaxed Barmy as a coach, as you think, we're all still thinking, well, hang on, Neil as a player, what he did a couple of times, is Craig going to do the same thing? So I reckon that was in all of us our thought patterns a bit, but I think Craig was pretty relaxed about it. He was just giving him shit, and it worked.
Yeah. Craig was just trying to have a conversation with him, he claims, so and he wasn't getting any replies. So he sort of got closer and closer and louder.
I think the classic bit of footage on all of that is Neil standing on the bench almost
pissing
himself laughing.
Well, he knew it was coming too, so and Staz probably, he was sitting next to Barmy for most of the day, so it was a little plan well hatched.
Very well played.
And of course, too, one thing in that game, you did the best tackle of your career, Tommy. Very vital tackle. And pretty fair play.
I was about to say, on a pretty good player from memory.
Pretty fair player to nail with the tackle too, Tommy.
I missed that. Sorry, Malcolm. But
fair player to nail the tackle on too in Craig Bradley.
Yeah, well, it seems to be an important tackle. I had the advantage of knowing that all these skillful little guys would try and get around me, so I was prepared. So, luckily I can remember Ebert took a mark and Bradley was running around the back looking for a handball, sort of 60 metres from goal. And, just everything went slow motion pretty much, saw the handball coming and, got the decision. And I think from there it started Aishi's run around the boundary line. So that famous run, I think I might have handballed to Justin and he might have given it to Aishi and Aishi took 5 bounces and ended up with Keith's remarkable goal, I think. So
incredible goal.
What was because I'm not quite that old, but I still love the 84 grand final, watching it back and forth. And obviously you can hear the crowd, but what was it like on ground with Aishi streaming down the wing there, and then obviously Keith Thomas finishing off the goal? What was would have gone insane.
Jesus, it was loud.
It's like a sort of a I was going to say a Boeing 747 for those who are old enough to remember them, but just the raw, amplified as he ran along.
Well, we were a lot of us, the Nord faithful, were in the outer.
Yes,
and as Aishi started, we just keep going and sort of just, and I reckon Aishi sort of rode it with us and kept going.
Yeah, that's what
the handball over to KT kicks long. John Hall goes up for the mark, spoil. The handball from Greg Thomas, it wasn't a great handball from Greg. It went behind him.
But he made
great
it look
trap by Keith.
He made it
brilliant
look better.
goal.
Yep.
So, might have watched that once or twice, Tommy.
Yeah, no, that's one of the great goals. I mean, if it was an AFL goal nowadays, they'd be raving about it.
Yes. Yeah.
Be on the Hilux, I reckon.
I reckon, yeah.
Of course, from there, Tommy, yes, as you said, there was some disappointing prelim finals. Your form was, still it was consistent. I think your year, which would bring up pretty fond memories, was so you're vice captain in 90, but your 200 game milestone in 89 against South. You're runner up to Rodney Maynard in the BNF in 89, and an award which meant a lot to you with knowing the Nord Awards. You won the Woods Medal and the E.A. Johnson Award and made the advertise a team of the year. So that's got to bring back some pretty great memories, Tommy.
Yeah, that was a pretty reasonable year. I broke my hand too at Norwood and missed probably 3 games. So I rue that fact. Would have liked to have got the best and fairest. That would have
Because it was pretty close on memory.
Yeah, I would never got the final count, but I can remember somebody in officialdom, whether it was Wally or somebody, saying, "Oh, you've come up close." But 89. Wow, long time ago. But vice captain with Mac, was I?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, the club were. I think it was Aishi. Was he the previous captain or Neville? I can't remember now.
Jeez,
But
Neville, I think so.
Yeah, we had a little interview. Justin Scanlon was interviewed for the captaincy, myself, but it was always going to be Macca's. So happy that it was. So
Well, talking about milestones, you brought up your 100th game in 1985 and represented South for the state against Western Australia.
Yeah, Neville was captain, yes. Yep.
Right. Okay,
Yep.
What were you...
So Neville giving it away.
Neville to Aishi and then to Macca in 90. So it was Neville in 85, 86, Michael in 87, 88, 89, and then Macca. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Pretty good trio of players. Yeah.
So, just going back to your state representation against Western Australia there during the 1985 season, what are your thoughts on representing the state and getting that opportunity?
Yeah, I didn't play State of Origin. There was always a couple of guys in front of me, which is fine. I have no regrets there. But, I reckon I stood Peter Bazzusto, of all people, from the ex Carlton guy who went back to play in Perth, and I can't remember doing a hell of a lot.
And
I think Johnny Cale, who was Johnny Cale, might have been the.
Yeah, he was. I think so.
Yeah, and I did find John Cale very motivating and a good coach, and I wonder he was so successful.
And I'm going to message one day from Gia. Always can make sure I've got to concentrate with you with your wife and Gia and Zia in terms of with Macca, with Gia, and then it was to do some research on Tom's state games, and Jeff Wilson did help me with that, and we came up with your dates and all that, and Gia got the Guernseys framed for a birthday, I reckon, on memory.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, thank you very much. She mentioned that you'd help with that, so I wouldn't have called my state footy a illustrious career, but one of my other state games was in Perth at Subiaco, and that was a great day because Macca played and Kernahan played.
Yeah.
Malcolm Blight kicked 10 at full forward. And I often say Blighty wouldn't have known who I was.
And Barmy coached that game.
Barmy coached, and I think McDermott played, McGuinness played, maybe. But Bruce Lindsay was on a half-back flank, so we had a gun side and won easily.
And Barmy out of that rang Blighty up and talked him into playing, and sort of on the lines of, I want an old bugger to drink with me after the game, and I think those two were pretty bloody good at that side of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I roomed with Greg Anderson, so I know he played.
Yep.
He was a gun. That was before he went to Melbourne. So it was a terrific side. I think Peter Bubner and I were in the back lines, and Scotty Lee might have played in the back pocket. I'm not too sure, but it was a bloody good side, and we had a good win there.
So, Tommy, from there, with the Crows starting, go through the start of all that, because there was millions of you guys there for training and trying to make the initial squad, of which you did. And we will get onto the folklore part and try and find out how much of that was true in a minute. But you go through that sort of experience with the Crows starting up, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough decision because one Macca had made it known that he wasn't going. Yeah. So, I mean, if he was sort of our, you could say a spiritual leader and the footy club, and when he says he's not going, it sort of makes you have second thoughts. I don't know what tipped me to say yes, but because me and Cornsey were never, I'd played on Cornsey before, and we were never great. Never had much
Yep.
to say to each other. And Curls and I, we didn't like each other so much. So I don't think my chances of having a long career at down at Adelaide Footy Club was great. But
you've opened up there because that was going to be the next question, Tommy. So you played the first game and played very well in the Crows' first game. And okay, the Crows that night were dynamite, and you can still argue were as good as they've ever played. And I think you guys just rode on the crowd and all that side of things. And we won easy, but you played very well on Dunstall. So then the next game we're playing Carlton. Now you got interviewed. I reckon it was the News back then, and all you did was honest and said, Kernahan had beaten you a couple of times.
Yeah,
and
as he did.
Well, geez, it's not exactly harming anyone getting beaten by Kernahan. And there seemed to be a hullabaloo about how dare you have said that and gave Carlton confidence bullshit. It was for mine, it was a load of crap, and you seem to get your papers stamped a bit because of that. Did you?
Yeah.
Did you think that as well?
Right. I think you're right. I mean, I didn't.
Crazy.
I've only looked back retrospectively and think that, but I think McDermott being cleaned up in the first game as well. I was standing Brereton at the time.
Yeah, I was trying to work that out.
Yeah, I didn't see him get cleaned up. So I'm not making excuses, but it's hard to go in there and someone into next week if you haven't seen the incident. So Curls, he had a bit to say. He wasn't terribly pleased on my reaction, and thinks I probably should have gone in and attempted to knock his block off and get 6 games. And I think that carried on to the next week. And
okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
bizarre. I couldn't, because to my mind, well, hang on, you've done a good job on Dunstall, and okay, well, again, you've been unlucky enough to get Dunstall, Brereton, and Kernahan your first 2 games, like fair rap, so you've played as the key defender, and then we're virtually treated like you're a leper. It was staggering.
Yeah. It was a difficult situation. I mean, Danny Hughes was. He may have been first choice. I'm not too sure, but he was injured for the first couple of weeks, and they brought him back in, and that they made the swap there. But
I reckon you're a better player than Danny, and I'm not being rude. It's my own personal opinion.
But having to go down there 5 nights a week and then not playing, and not, they had a payment system whereby you didn't get paid if you didn't play. And so it was, I had a business which wasn't overly successful on the parade, and a young family, and to drive down there five nights a week and then not play. And Norwood, there was a system where you went back to Norwood but weren't on your previous match payments at Norwood, so you were playing for sort of $150 a week, and it's not, you don't play for the money, but it adds stress to the family. You haven't got that income.
It's you sort of almost get a double whack, don't you? You're expected to put in 3 million hours but get paid the apprentice wage.
That's right. I mean, I think there were 4 or 5 guys who were the star players, and they negotiated a fair, Scotty Hodges and Daryl Hart and McDermott and McGuinness, and perhaps Daryl. I said Daryl Hart, but they were in the papers at the time, not standing out until they got paid money. But the rest of us were on. Admittedly, it was a lot of money then. It was like $1,000 a game back then. But if you weren't playing, you were behind the 8 ball, and of course tax takes half of that.
Yeah.
What was it like crowd-wise? Obviously, Adelaide was born very, very quickly, and obviously the practice games we've seen, I don't think I've ever seen a practice game with Footy Park almost completely full. And then we've just talked, obviously, about your first game there against Hawthorn. Geez, the stars aligned very, very quickly for you guys.
They did. I mean, I'll take you back a step further, doing a pre-season with Port players and Glenelg players in the same change room. I mean, I can remember Cornsey had this thing that we had to do 100 hundreds because
Yes.
110 hundreds because the Vicks had been reported we're doing 100.
100, so we had to do 10 more, yeah.
Yeah, and I can remember completing my 100 and looking over, to give somebody an exhausted hug saying congratulations, and it was George Fiarchi. and we looked at each other and we said, oh, no, I really can't do this. So we sort of, one of those awkward half, embraces. But that's what it was like. You're in the change rooms with all these players that, were your arch enemies. And, yeah, so that was an interesting dynamic that I suppose the Adelaide Footy Club had to get over. But, we were training in tin sheds not training in tin sheds, but the change rooms were transportables and it was
of course the 100
not
hundreds
ideal.
100 hundreds Rocket was just completing his warm-up by doing those too, the bloody lunatic in terms of that regard.
That's true, but we did play I think we played Essendon and a big crowd arrived and then we might have played Geelong. I think we played Geelong in a night game and then
Matty Kelly broke his wrist. Late in that game against Geelong.
He had a shocking run.
Yeah, which cost him. Yeah, he did that and then did his knee after that because he could seriously play as well.
He could. He was going to get it. He was going to be a starter.
Yeah.
He was seriously played. He had a wretched run with injuries. Another Norwood man. Yeah.
We've got to ask also, stepping back a little bit there with pre-season and Nigel Smart walking over the fire coals.
That was the next one.
Yeah. So, how did that all come about?
No, well, I'd been given the arse by then, so that was the second pre-season.
That's right.
Okay.
Second one, yeah.
So I after getting the flick from the Crows, I went and played maybe 7 or 8 games with Norwood, and then I did my ACL.
You did your ACL,
against Westies, and later that year when they were chopping up the squad, obviously, a 28-year-old or 29-year-old with an ACL who's, not getting, not working on it 40 hours a week like they do now with their knee jobs. I had no chance of going back, so I got the arse. So that Nigel Smart thing was the next year.
Fair call. It almost feels like it was in that first year because everything sort of happened very, very quickly.
And of course,
it was there was only that one AFL team there, and it got a lot of press. And Cornsey was looking for the edge, and
and then you went
strange thing.
Then you went back for after the knee. You played for Iggy's and ended up coaching Iggy's as well, mate.
Yeah. I later in that season when I did my knee, I think I missed the next year trying to get my knee right. Then came back the year after, played a few reserves games, knew my knee wasn't any good, and then went and played with Old Ignatians and hoping to play with all my mates, but they'd all left the year before, so I played with a group of young guys, and it was very enjoyable. Made the grand final, but got beaten by Hope Valley. I can remember that. Still hurts.
Yeah. You were certainly fanatically Iggy's. I may have coached against Tommy in one game, and Tommy was a bit more intense than I was, Pete. I know that might amaze you.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, I was a bit more relaxed than Tommy on that. So, we had a bit of fun that day.
Yeah, I don't know what you were doing with that mob you were coaching, but I'll never forgive you.
We won that. We won, though.
Of course you won it.
Yeah, so a bit of fun.
Was coaching ever something that you wanted to do at a slightly higher level? Obviously, your heart was with St. Ignatius being the old school or the old scholars. But did you want to go on with it?
He did get involved back at Norwood after that.
Yeah, I coached the under-19s for a couple of years. We had some guys play league footy. Nick Dygan was a good player from that year, and then I coached the reserves. I had to go coaching the reserves, but it was the year when the team was decimated and the A grade actually finished bottom, and Macca unfortunately didn't survive. I don't think he and they went for that dickhead Dale Thomas, not Dale Thomas.
Lewis, Dale Lewis,
yeah, that was a good move.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that one, Tommy.
I think there's a few that are scratching their head on that decision for sure.
Yeah, well, I can remember getting a phone call from from Dale Lewis saying that I was no longer required, and I said, well, that's fine, but there's a good crop of under-19s, and if you ever want, the ins and outs of the strengths of these young kids, I'm happy to sit down and go through them one by one. He said, no, that won't be necessary, mate. We don't need you. So, that was good.
Still waiting on that phone call.
Yeah, that's right. You should do a "Where Are They Now" on him.
Yeah.
Now there's
I don't think he'd want to talk to me, Tommy. I can be pretty sure of that. Yeah.
Now, there's something that we missed along the way, and I've been dying to ask this one. The 1988 incident at the parade with Centrals. What are your
fair question to Tommy on that one.
What are your memories on that? Because I actually was sitting right in front of all of that, and I've got my memories, but what about you as a player?
Tommy might have played a fair part in that too, actually.
Yeah, I did, I think. I mean, I knew we were going a bit rough, and what I remember is Centrals were going well, and they were confident, and they would have been confident because we were travelling pretty poorly, and we've come out second onto the ground and come up the race, and there's Centrals kicking goals at the southern end. And, so we've done a lap or two.
Sacrilegious.
Oh.
Yeah, a lap or two, and we've settled for a bit of a stretch out on the eastern wing, and the runner has come up to me because Macca must have.
Yeah, Macca was captain, so he got a coin toss. Yep.
Yeah, or he'd asked me after he'd asked Macca what he thought we should do. I said, there's only one thing we should do. We go down there and kick goals down there as well. So, so we all marched down there. And, of course, being in the back lines, I was in the square with a few others. And, there's 10 of their footies and 10 of ours and 10 of their players and 10 of ours. And I can remember watching this ball being kicked by a Centrals player and obviously knew it was a Bulldogs footy, and the big Richard Lounder, the man mountain,
he was a big boy.
Under it, and I decided to give him everything I had. So I sort of took a bit of a run up and slammed into his back and took the back of his head and got the footy. And I think by the time I'd hit the ground, she was on. So
did we end up keeping the footy, Tommy?
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. I don't know what happened to the footy.
I mean, I just remember sitting there and Johnny Hall had somebody in a headlock and almost put him fair and square into the metal because back in the days, that was a metal signage all around the ground and you just hear these heads go crashing in.
And Tim McNeil trying to jump up and leap at somebody. It was like watching a little kid against Lounder and of course, Gilbert McAdams started the game on the bench because of what happened. So, it was an interesting start to the game, and we did end up winning, Tom.
We ended up winning, and I think Kells claimed that his team were ambushed or something like that. But I mean, everybody knows that Norwood kicked goals to that other end.
That's our end.
That changed the rules, I think, from the SANFL. So twice we've had the rules changed. No longer in grand finals could stand next to your opponent during the national anthem. And when you're playing at suburban grounds, you get allocated an end, so that doesn't happen anymore either.
Well, you can claim that you had an impact on South Australian footy in that regard, Tommy.
Yeah, they're taking all the fun out of it.
Yeah.
Are you thinking in one way it was good that Macca was actually tossing the coin at that stage? Because I think he could have completely done a bit of damage if he was there right from the get-go.
Yeah. Macca was he wasn't bad on the old boxing, so old wrestling. He might have ended up killing somebody. So it's probably best he had to run from the middle of the ground.
And then he just gathered you guys afterwards. What was the conversation about? Like, you've got them, or how did that all play out?
Well, I think it certainly got us up, and sort of 100% full speed ahead, and I think it put them back in their spot a little bit too. So, I think it definitely gave us the advantage. I mean, I don't know what the scores were. I think I might have left the ground halfway through the game. I think Craig Kelly ran through me and put me on a stretcher, so a bit of friendly fire. So, I can't remember the score line, but I think it certainly gave us the advantage, both mentally and probably physically, gave us an advantage as well.
One other quick one in terms of 84, the Barmy Choir. Tommy, wasn't that a fine?
I don't know about this.
I'll have to find it on YouTube for you. But wasn't that a fine ensemble of singing talent, singing Barmy?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that was
East is
Paddy's.
east and west is west, and we all know
Yeah,
that Barmy is best. Yeah.
Barney's best.
Yep.
Yeah, that was
I like that one.
Michael Pratt. He had us.
Yeah.
He was trying to. He was before his time, really. He had
Yeah.
us singing in the market and working behind the counter at butcher shops and things like that. He was before his time, Pratt. He was great on promotions.
Yeah, that was funny. It was great
Yeah.
memories that are packed, absolutely packed upstairs. Let's remember upstairs
I don't know
how many
they could
people
fit
were in there,
but-
or how many
Yeah.
were there supposedly legally, whatever. But in terms of the number that night, that was enormous.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a bit of a fire trap. We're lucky. We're lucky it didn't go up.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
a pity the old Norwood, the club went, but I understand
Yeah.
half the reasons why. But it's still a great pity that we no
It
longer
is.
have.
It is a great pity. It's still
but-
never be the same.
But now that the Wolf Splash Centre's there, do you think that it was an important building block to getting to where they are right now?
it's just different.
I mean,
it's different.
you're
that's
right.
all.
I mean, the Wolf Splash is great, but it was, what was it, 20 years? 20 years in the making almost between the demolition of Wood Street and the Wolf Splash. So, and they weren't, those sort of 90s, early 2000s weren't overly successful. But, I mean, Nathan Bassett and they won premierships, didn't they? In
Bass got
12,
us
13 and
12,
14.
13, 14. Bass was fantastic in terms of the Norwood juniors as well. He played a huge part in everything there. I've only got the highest praise of Nathan Bassett as a coach personally.
I'm glad he's back.
Yeah.
Well, and lucky that we've got him back, really.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
All right, Tommy. So, best players played with and hardest opponents. The traditional way to close out.
And you can pick three or four of each.
Go in whatever direction you want.
Wow. Okay. I don't know. I mean, the Norwood team of the 80s, I don't know whether you could pick shit. Well, you can't split AC Macca and Keith Thomas, so we'll put them down as one.
Yep.
And Kingo.
Bruce Winter was probably the best defender I played with. I mean, he was just, great reader of the footy, great hands, great kick. Made me look better than I was while he was there in the back pocket, no doubt about that. Neville, probably the best forward we had. I mean, I missed out on playing with Roger Woodcock, but Neville Roberts was as good as they come.
Yep.
I'm sure I've missed somebody out, and I'll have to apologise. I mean, Phil Gallagher there'll be never another full Phil Gallagher. So with his foot skills. I mean, the best players played against. There was a lot. I mean, Scotty Hodges was very good. I mean, always dangerous and played in a very good side. Obviously, Stephen Kernahan, when he played at the Bays, we met on a few occasions before he went to Melbourne, and he was tough. But again, I'm sure I'm going to miss somebody. But most teams had great forwards. Rick Davies, even though he was only on one leg, he was fantastic.
His body use. He just used his ass at the right time,
Yeah, so strong. And, I mean, Roger Luders was great. Yeah,
Luders is a very good player.
Grenville was
terrific.
Rudy Mandamaker had days out. And, they were just every week you had no rest. You didn't, you knew that you'd have to be on your game. And some days I wasn't up to it. But I had good teammates around me, covered for me.
And Tommy, the most recent honour you've been awarded, go through it in terms of what that means to you, and also, I know you think that very fair the Warhurst family and that side of it. What an honour that is, and how much does that mean to you, mate? Yeah,
well, I initially, almost, was welling up a little bit when Paul D'Elio rang me. It stunned me a little bit because I'd never given it any thought. And it has been, how many years? 34 years since I played. And there had been other more recent players inducted. So I hadn't given it any thought. But, unfortunately, my old man, he's not around. But even my brothers and sisters think it was, are thrilled and, and think it's warranted. I've been telling people that, in a team full of Rolls Royces, you had to have a 4-wheel drive somewhere along the line, and that was me.
Nothing wrong with that, mate.
And I'm just forever grateful to Rick Neagle. I think Rick, old teammate, he's on the committee, and I think he along with Paul and Fanta and
the history
Mike
committee
Taylor.
play a fair part, and then there's a recommendation, and others a board, and then it gets ratified. So it's quite a
involved process.
Yeah, big process to come up with the inductees, mate.
Yeah. I mean, just overwhelmed. Even talking about it now, it's pretty unbelievable when you think of, the cast of players that I played with, and to be acknowledged has been fantastic.
No,
Yeah,
well deserved,
means a lot to
Tommy.
my family, my grandkids, and all of that.
Yeah, no, well deserved, mate.
Thank you.
Once again, Tommy, thank you for joining us tonight. We've enjoyed having a trip down memory lane, and congratulations, obviously, on your last little achievement there. But as a Norwood supporter, thank you for your magnificent games, especially in 82 and 84.
Greatly appreciated, Tom. Thanks, mate.
Thank you very much, lads. Thank you.
Thanks, Tommy.
See you, boys. Bye.
All right, and we thank Tommy there for his time. Obviously, we split that interview up over a couple of weeks there, and some interesting comments there about Knuckles.
Have a listen, folks. Let's say that was one I didn't know about.